Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Robot Report podcast. I'm Mike Oitzman, Senior Editor for the Robot Report, and we're coming to you live from the 2025 Robotics Summit. And I'm excited this afternoon to be here with Robert Kufner. He's President and CEO of SDP SI. Robert, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Yeah.
Great being here.
It's great to have you on the show, and very excited to sort of catch up on what's going on with you guys. You guys have been an exhibitor on the show here. So let's start with that. Tell us a little bit about how the show has gone for you guys. We're a day and a half into it, still have a half a day to go. But
yeah, it's been great. Honestly, the activity yesterday was amazing. This is our third year here. It seems like every year it's gotten a little better and well attended. I heard there were over 2,000 attendees here this time. Yeah. So that's an amazing number. But we've worked really hard on building some good relationships, got some nice leads on some opportunities. And I think there's a lot of folks that have really focused, a lot of companies have focused on design more so than I've seen in the last 2 to 3 years.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's good because there seems to have been a lull in that for a while.
Huh. So that's an interesting point to make. So talk for folks that aren't familiar with what you all do.
Okay.
Tell us briefly about the line of products that you guys are presenting here and are of interest to the robotics community.
Great question. So it's always been considered we've always been considered, SDP-SI has always been considered a stock product or for gears and pulleys and belts, small size power transmission products, 4 inches and below. But we also we're well beyond just being a stock product company. We go very deep into design. We have an enormous amount of design resources, plus a 96,000 square foot facility where we build over 70% of our stuff that we sell in our catalog is built right here in the U.S. So I'd love to talk about that a little bit as well.
Yeah, but the type of folks that we're getting at this show, the roboticists, some of the entrepreneurs, folks that are building products, either have built a prototype or maybe building their first prototype. Again, they come talk to you guys for the transmission-ish sort of elements of
So and from basically from motor through the tactile part of the robot all the way out to the end effector. We're providing gears and pulleys, power transmission products for planetary gear sets, from design to finish. A lot of the robot companies, and we service over 200 of them at the moment, from a myriad of different styles and shapes of end products. They're using those products for, let's say, a pulley and belt are going to be used in a end effector for a hand or some kind of grasping device. We see a lot of that. Folks like Amazon and from Amazon into the guy that's working on a one-off is actually going into our catalog, finding a part. Hopefully it's going to work out for him, but if it doesn't, then we have the ability to make changes to those parts fairly quickly to service them. But we also can scale up as well.
So you guys have a standard catalog of gear sizes, but you can also build custom design components.
Yeah,
right?
And that's actually been an unfortunate misnomer for quite a while for us, is that we've always been looked at as the stock product company, but we do a whole lot more. Surprisingly, over 40% of what we're selling is actually custom products.
And I'm curious, how many stock standard part numbers do you have in your line card?
Over 100,000 part numbers in stock. Great. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And we have a very, very modern facility and a lot of speed to get you the stuff that you need.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
The world today, been a lot of talk about tariffs. And as you said, you have the capability to build a lot of your stuff, a majority of your stuff here. So that's maybe not as important as might be for some of your competitors who are bringing a lot of stuff from outside of the country. Tell us a little bit about the manufacturing capabilities you have and what kind of things you're building here.
Great question. We are uniquely positioned, and by design, frankly. We've worked very hard over our 75-year history to make sure that our manufacturing process were originated here in the U.S., and we've built our supply chain of additional resources in the U.S. to support us. So our manufacturing is done in our shop. We also have a supply chain of over 50 companies that are helping us with secondary operations, whether it be heat treating or coatings or particularly material sources. All of our material sources are actually coming from the U.S. Companies that are well known amongst our peers. We're using folks that have an enormous amount of stock, and we also keep an enormous amount of stock ourselves for that. Fresh.
So, in your 75-year history, where did you guys get your start? What kind of systems and machines?
That's so ironic, right?
Before robotics became a thing.
It was the form of robotics back in the day. It was automation, they called it, right? And mechatronics always has been a core for us. We shifted very early on in the first 10 years into supporting a lot of defense work, and still do.
Okay.
But our core has always been really industrial automation, and now with the advent of robotics, the stuff that we used, ironically, pulleys and belts, even back in the 50s, is becoming more and more popular now for transmitting some kind of activity over a distance. So, and reliability. So we have the history of design. We can guide you on making the right selection because we've seen so many different iterations of what's been successful and what hasn't.
So would you can you say that you were building military equipment in the early days, or manufacturing
on Long Island? Grumman had a facility nearby us, and in Long Island. So Long Island is called one of the cradles of aviation.
Right.
And very nearby us, Grumman was building the F-14.
Okay.
And we were a big supplier to them, and still to them and a lot of other aerospace companies as well. That's probably 23 or 24% of our business right now, because a lot of legacy product, and we're actually very, very proud of that. Not getting too far away from robotics. We feel honored to be able to support the military's mission and on all fronts. So it's all of the branches use a little bit of what we supply, but on products that are in the defense of Ukraine, Israel, and then obviously our own forces here in the U.S.
And then just standard process manufacturing machines, assembly, packaging machines, all those types
as well.
Automation beyond robotics.
Actually,
that moves and transmits something on the manufacturing floor could essentially be built around some of your components.
Absolutely. 3D printers have been probably the most used in our history by volume. Okay. They're not quite as popular as they once were.
There was a craze there, right?
There was a craze, yeah. We were at the forefront of MakerBot. They were one of our biggest customers at one point.
Yeah.
And a lot of that product knowledge is transferred into a lot of other sources. You'd be surprised at how that knowledge from the 3D printer technology and how to make those parts is transferred into the robotics that we're seeing now.
I mean, things are getting smaller. So when you think about the size of 3D printer is a robot, but now especially with humanoid robots, as an example, the legged robots, a lot of complex legs, arms, fingers, manipulators, right? I think it's a real seems like a real market opportunity for what you're doing.
It is, particularly for anybody who's staying at a machining company, manufacturing company like us that's keeping up with the technology and how to make it. So we're at the forefront of understanding, particularly in machining, the really highly technical processes to be able to make stuff at a lower cost, fast, right? Doing things like skiving. We're really, really good at gear cutting, and we're advancing that process because all joints in robotics need gears or pulleys, depending on what you're using. So we see a lot of that in the developmental cycle now and this is actually something that one of the speakers had talked about, iterations. So a lot of our newer design customers for some of the bigger robotics companies now are looking at that process also, making multiple iterations over a shorter period of time, testing it. And we work with folks on testing, on building test beds, mechanical as well as electromechanical, to be able to test their product and then move on to the next, destroy that, right? Or tear it up and move on to the next iteration until they finalize it.
Where is there innovation? I mean, gears have been around for, more than a century, multiple centuries.
Yes, true.
But where's the innovation coming from?
The machine manufacturers, particularly the ones that we do business with, they're constantly advancing the mission of being able to cut faster, lower costs.
Mm-hmm.
Our mantra really is one and done. We want to be able to do the product untouched by human hands from a piece of bar stock, so that you have the least amount of labor associated with the product itself. And we've gotten very good at that. But the machines really are the thing that has propelled that.
Mm-hmm.
The machine companies have put an enormous amount of effort themselves in being able to be good at machining, right? That's how they sell machines. So being able to take a risk like we do in advance, buying new equipment that has the newest technology on it, has led us down that path.
I mean, we're really talking about, additive manufacturing is one avenue, but even the CNC machines of today. In fact, I think I was at CES this year, the first tabletop CNC machine I could actually buy and put in my home. And
I want one.
For some
so
hobby
cool.
machine, it's pretty wild, right?
Yeah.
That is a thing now. No longer, I don't know what a CNC machine costs these days, a full-size one.
Yeah.
But to have a tabletop CNC machine rigid enough to actually build something that I could imagine, a gear or something more intricate than that.
Or going even further, now the metal and plastic 3D printers now will have in some cases be combined with a CNC and do both, right? In the same envelope. Yeah. And 3D printing hasn't arrived yet, close enough to be everything that we've seen as far as gears and pulleys are concerned has to be post-machined.
Yeah.
So, or we're a ways off from that, but we watch it very, very closely.
So it's just amazing when an entrepreneur can have an idea and go from the software design in CAD to, a full-blown product prototype, whether that's through additive manufacturing or machining techniques, and actually create something out of nothing. It just amazes me that the cycles that these companies are accelerating in terms of their design and prototyping.
Yeah. Faster. We've had some of our more recent robotics customers come to us and say, we need to do an iteration in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And some companies would say, oh my God, I can't possibly do that. But we have to figure out a way to get there. And by the processes that you're talking about is a way to do that. Our supply chain actually helps us a lot with that too. Being able to maybe cut a blank, send it out to multiple other suppliers so that we're not waiting on our own equipment to be freed up to be able to cut their parts. That's an advantage that we have as well. Very, very large supply chain.
And you would be talking about someone who needs more than a single first instance. They may need 100 or 200 or
usually it's more than one.
Small quantities,
Smaller
but they want to make a production run. Or maybe they've lost another supplier and they need you to fill in a short-term order just because they've got some production need. You can do those kind of
We can
things.
do both. Yeah, from the smaller runs, the 10 sets of something to try it out, to scaling up to hundreds of thousands, we can do that.
Of course, with quantity comes better price.
Absolutely.
Breaks.
The more you buy, the better discounts you're going to get.
But it's good to be able to say, yes, we can turn that around in the time frame you need to meet whatever commitments.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's cheap either for the prototype.
That's a great service to be able to offer to a customer that has that need.
Yeah.
Right. And I think probably, as we said, who knows what the tariff impact is going to be for the supply chains of all these different organizations, being able to offer an option for the companies that need it or want a U.S.-based supplier where they can have.
We have surprisingly a large number of folks that are coming to us asking us that very question and what we can do. A lot of concern. We still don't know what's going to happen in another 45 days, right? Trump put a pause on this, but it's not the end.
Yeah.
Right? There's something that's going to happen in that 45 days from now when the final decisions are met. Either some of the countries are going to make the deal or some aren't. And we don't know who those are going to be.
Everybody's hedging their bets today.
Absolutely.
You would be foolish not to be hedging your bet
Yeah.
at this time. So, well, hey, it's been interesting to catch up with you. It's been interesting to better understand your business and the role that you play in this industry. So, thanks for being here. I want to say
thanks for having me.
I'm glad it was a success for you to exhibit here, and that we've got your customers.
It was a great decision to be here, and I appreciate it.
All right, well, that's going to do it. I want to thank Robert for joining me on this episode of the show. Please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more great content from the Robot Report.